Well, good morning, everyone. Well, as you know, our family has not had an opportunity to speak at all during this process that now has lasted over a year. And today was just another indication of what I believe is a process gone wrong. And I want to share a little bit about that here today, because as elected county attorney Freeman likes to use so many sports metaphors, today is a day that I want to start leveling the playing field. And I want all Minnesotans to know that at no time during this process did Amy Sensor ever try to hide. Did she try to get away with an accident that caused the death of Anasan Pantavong on August 23rd? It was a tragic accident, and I want all Minnesotans to know this. But today I want to speak about a process that was manipulated by elected County Attorney Freeman that brought us to where we are here today. And I want to read what's on his website. He says, "We serve justice and public safety through our commitment to ethical prosecution. We are respected because we are fair and credible." So I want you to know that in the next couple of weeks and months and up until the midterm election in 2 years, I will be speaking through KARE 11 and Janice Shortle, that you will have the information that you need to have to tell Amy Sensor's story. I want to first say that I want to apologize to the Minnesota Vikings. July 21st, 1985 was the last time I was a member of that organization. You cannot find a story that doesn't mention that she's married to a former player. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a lot of former things. And the Wilf family is a good and decent family. That disinformation, because of the internet and the quick information out there, this information gets splashed on a great organization. And I want to apologize to them, and I want to ask you in the media to stop writing about me being a former player with the Minnesota Vikings. So let's just see where that goes from here. Elected County Attorney Freeman would like you to believe that Amy Sensor waited 10 days before she came forward after that accident. Nothing could be further from the truth. Elected County Attorney Freeman knew about this accident minutes after Eric Nelson had reported it the very next day. At any time, the law could have taken Amy Sensor or any member of our family into questioning. They chose not to. And you will learn that this individual, elected County Attorney Freeman, tried to use her silence against her. I'll give you a case in point. During the trial, as I was standing up for my wife, I made a point to say that Amy Sensor has never lied to me. And that is true. The very next day in court, what I said that day can and will be used against you in a court of law. And the circus continued. In an honored court of law, with no evidence that Amy Sensor knew that she had hit a person, she was convicted. Now let me tell you how we got there. Elected County Attorney Freeman decided that he needed to make an action imperative with this case. The more you talk about it, the more you throw it on the wall, the more you're likely to get a response that's negative. But his action imperative were lies. And I want to make that perfectly clear. He wanted you to believe that she was intoxicated that night, that Amy Sensor left the scene of that accident, knew she hit someone, but was intoxicated. Go back and listen to his words. Now, next to child molestation or hurting a child, there isn't an emotion more demeaning than drunk driving or someone who's driving impaired. Everybody has an opinion on that issue. Before this trial started, he was able to manipulate this process that allowed for that conviction. And so here I stand today, hopeful that now that the appellate judges will have an opportunity to look at this, that her defense was not allowed in that courtroom over that 9-day period. But yet he still tried to charge her. And so I'm asking you in the media to start asking him questions other than yes and no answers. Why would you do that? Where's your proof? And then ask him how much money of your taxpayer dollars he spent investigating the cover-up of that lie. Ask him. Because it's fresh in our mind, I'll start with his very last musing. In his post-verdict, he being elected County Attorney Freeman, his post-verdict conference, he did not mention about the note. Go back and read it. Go back and listen to it. 9 minutes and 27 seconds of raw feed. He was asked 3 times about the verdicts. He chose to speak on count 2, which was not reporting. He mentions 1 and 2, and even reference intoxication once again in count 3. He knew about that note, ladies and gentlemen. That's the ethical prosecution we're talking about in Hennepin County. He knew about it because complicit Russell was in his, he being Judge Mabley's office, asking to revoke bail. He knew about that note. Eric Nelson didn't know about it for 3 days. So you tell me if that's ethical. He wouldn't speak on it the same way he wouldn't speak about the change of venue, because he knew his lying admonition that created this action imperative dehumanized Amy Sensor and made her public enemy number 1 before any evidence was brought forward. In his last musing in that conference, he does not mention the note at all. He knew about what went on in that courtroom before that verdict. That's the kind of justice we have in Hennepin County. That's why I at least have faith in the appellate system. Amy Sensor sitting in prison for 41 months. How many of you know about Jason Stevens? Can anybody tell me about Jason Stevens? Let me tell you about him. He's a 19-year-old Augsburg student who was killed on 94 yards away from where this tragic accident happened with Amy Sensor. On September 21st, 2011, almost to the hour. Where is that in the staging process? Where is it? That individual that probably struck Jason Stevens that night probably did not know that they hit an individual. I want you to ask elected County Attorney Freeman, where is that in the staging process? And if I sound upset, it's only because if anybody that knows me knows that if you want to get the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up, start threatening my family. And that's what elected County Attorney Freeman did when he lied about Amy Sensor to the public. He wanted you to believe something other than the truth. And this has to be told. Elected County Attorney Freeman in November attended a hate crime seminar put on by St. Thomas University on November 4th, 2010. He was part of the process. He has since said that in order to gain some of these convictions, we need to push the envelope. Well, I wonder how that's going for you there, elected County Attorney Freeman, when you found out Amy Sensor's family had adopted a Native American at birth. I wonder how that's going for you when you looked into her life and saw that she was the individual that would take the minority to prom because no one else would. I've lived with her for 24 years. We have never stopped or gone somewhere without stopping for her to pick up an animal that was on the road, a human being that was looking for money. She single-handedly went to Lima, Peru, and started adopting families. Does that sound like somebody that would run away from her responsibility? No. Elected County Attorney Freeman lied, and he knew that those threats were real. He had complicit Russell speak to the Star Tribune. He wouldn't even do it because he didn't talk about the note because he's a lawyer. And anytime you say something as a lawyer, it can be found out. He was silent on that issue. He had his prosecutor talk about it because he knew the threats were real. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. As horrible as it is, and Amy Sensor should be held responsible for that accident, what's even more egregious is that I don't know friend from foe when I walk around anymore. I don't know who's going to seek revenge from all those threats that we've received, including Brittany Sensor. Now, I understand that elected County Attorney Freeman has the Hennepin County Star Tribune in his back pocket. And I will lay out for you in detail with Janice Shortle exactly how I've come to learn. I'm asking you as reporters and as journalists to do your job. That's what I'm asking. And I want you to know that Amy Sensor is not the individual that complicit Russell bastardized in that courtroom. She is exactly opposite what's been reported by the Tribune and the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Exactly opposite. Now, I'm a big law and order guy. Always have been. I was on the first Civilian Review Board in Minneapolis. You can check it. But I don't care if you're an elected official or not. You do not lie that causes threats to families. You don't do it. And I want to know why. And I'll end with this. I would ask someone from the OAG's office to keep a good eye on what elected County Freeman will do now in retaliation, because there will be retaliation. I can guarantee you that. And I think it's to your advantage, Attorney General Swanson, to keep an eye on this. This may help you in 2 years. I appreciate your time. I want you to know that I cannot leave this podium without saying, even though the Pentavong's family have requested that we not apologize anymore, I want them to know that my family will always honor the memory of Anason Pantafon. That we are good and decent, hardworking people, and I don't apologize for hard work. They tried to paint Amy Sensor as being this rich, white Edina housewife. Nothing could be further from the truth. That girl has never even been into a store to buy an item of clothing for herself. In her life, she gives to others first. But yet complicit Russell made it look like in that courtroom, she made it look like that she was irresponsible and turned what I said about Amy World as being this good and loving and decent and caring and putting others first into this irresponsible woman who's a rich white housewife. Well, I'm going to tell elected county Freeman something. We are very rich, the Sensor family, but not financially. We never have been, but we are very rich and blessed beyond recognition. Thank you for your time.
Are you going to take questions?
I think my statement says it all.
Well, if you're such a law and order guy, why didn't you call the police?